Hey, it's me, Zach, and we're going to be talking about another episode of Survivor 42. This is episode 4. Can I tell you something? I've never seen anything like this in Survivor, and what it is that I'm pissed because I knew from the beginning of the episode, or from the beginning of when Ika lost, that Swati was going to go home. And the reason, not because I got spoiled on social media or anything like that, but because Survivor spoiled it in advance. That's why I said I hope Tori they spoiled it in advance because they showed the preview clip still several episodes ago, like a preview of the season, where actually I think it was in the very beginning of the season, showing Tori reading the freaking phrase about potatoes have skin, I have skin in my potato. She read that phrase. So anytime she's the center of discussion, is like her or another person, all the tension is immediately removed. I don't know how many of you remember that, but it was one thing the first time Tori was up for as one of the people to be voted out potentially. I forgot about it then, but obviously then it came to the front of my mind. And as they're going through the, like, Marianne saying the phrase and no one said it yet, I'm like, okay, hopefully we see Tori find it in this episode. Otherwise, if that tribe is going to tribal council, I know she's not going. And that's exactly what happened. It's like, wow, that's a really glaring issue of something they previewed in the very beginning of the season. So there was no tension in the entire episode for me. And that's having seen nothing on social media or anything to spoil me at a time outside of the show. It's only the show itself. So I've never had that feeling. It's very weird and made for a very a mediocre episode overall. There was some great stuff in it. For one, Jonathan beasting the challenges is a definite highlight. Now, people were already saying going into the season and then at the beginning of the season that Jonathan is like the typical merge boot, and how's he going to avoid that? But even more so now that he not only continues to beast all the challenges, everybody's seeing that he's beasting the challenges, but he also said that they're a tight four, their tribe. Which obviously, like Marianne and Omar were saying, they were not happy with that because obviously that's not a good thing. That you want people to think going into the merge that basically they're inseparable and you can't work with them unless you split them up, kind of thing, you know? You want to downplay how tight you are, for sure, if you're going into the merge. But it's still been fun watching Jonathan play. I think he's a joy to watch every time you see him on screen, you know? He's one of those, he's like the meathead, but he's like very lovable at the same time. You don't get that often, you know. He's very personable, he seems kind, and he's entertaining, fun to watch. So I hope he figures something out to get some longevity in the game, but I can't see the reality once Jonathan wins the season. I think you put yourself at such a disadvantage so quickly, being the threat, you know, such a beast at all times. But, you know, that's kind of necessary. Like, even with him beasting that immunity challenge for most of it, like swimming hardcore, it still was, they weren't that far ahead when it came down to the puzzle. Obviously, they were able to pace themselves a lot more, but still, it just shows you that that might be what's necessary to not go to tribal council. It's not like he could have been reeling that in every time. I don't know. But it was nice seeing a little bit of the fallout from the hectic tribal council last time, where Daniel is definitely on the bottom of things, it seems. He lost Mike's trust, and Mike shook hands with Hai, said he wants to work with him. Daniel really, really blew it in that tribal council. And it's funny, I wasn't even thinking about this until now when they mentioned that, or Hai mentioned that Daniel's a lawyer, and he really had that awful, awful case when it came down to the negotiations. That's crazy. That should have been his time to shine. But he immediately folded in the beginning when he said, I just want to make one thing clear. I'm not going to Rocks. I don't want to go to Rocks. So I think another part of why this episode is also mediocre is because I think the Ika tribe is probably the least interesting of the three tribes also. At the same time, I wanted them to go to tribal council for that very reason, because I have a lot of people I love on the other two tribes that I want to be protected at all costs. So I'm fine with this outcome in that regard. But basically, it all starts with Swathi wants to work with Tori and Bullen Roxroy to get Drea out, because she said from the beginning that she felt like she's not in a power position in the tribe, so she wants to change that, and this was part of her plan to do so. But of course, then Tori tells Roxroy about Drea's extra vote, and it seemed from that point that Swathi was going to have to go into self-preservation mode and be out on Tori. But Tori, in her self-preservation mode, flips it back on Swathi, and everybody sees how she's playing all sides at this point. Telling everybody that she's their number one. And Romeo seems to actually be the one that leads that charge, or at least puts that idea out there that Swathi needs to go because she's playing a lot harder than they realized, and she can't be trusted. So fair enough. And then you could tell in tribal council that it was full on desperation mode for Swathi, and she wanted to try to do last minute. It's basically like an Among Us or Mafia play that you see a lot, where you try to flip it and frame it on the other person last minute. It's like, oh no, they wanted me to do this. I didn't even do anything wrong, but suddenly it's being pinned on me. Unfortunately, in a lot of circumstances, and especially in this one as well, you're a lot safer going off with your original bet, which was like, we believe Tori to not be the instigator in this situation. That's what everyone else's perspective seems to be. So at that point, it's going to take a lot more than just saying that she didn't do anything wrong for everybody to then flip the whole thing, because you can only have major regret at that point if you flip, unless you get some damning evidence that actually Tori is the one to blame here. Regardless, Swathi was a classic case of playing too hard, too fast, for sure. She was just feeling herself, and she did seem to be in a good position, and she acknowledged at the end. She was like, well, it seems like it was a different Survivor player after I made that major mistake. And if she bounced back, she could have been done some damage here. But yeah, ultimately, I'm satisfied with the outcome. We got to lose one of the least interesting tribe with the tribal council, and we lost Swathi as opposed to Tori, who Tori seems to always going to be adding drama, so I'm here for that. She's going to be a fun character. She's going to be a fun character, and she's also going to be finding that three-way shirt immunity idol. Hopefully soon. Hopefully next episode, because then every time they go to the tribal council, God forbid, we'll know it's not her until she reads that thing, at least. My thing is funny is that Marianne has said it the past couple immunity challenges, but Mike hasn't said it. He's been waiting for the other tribe to say it. So just imagine the reality in which both other tribes are waiting for the other person to say it when they both have it too. So at some point I'd start doubting that myself as Mike. It'd be like, well, what if we're both playing the same game but waiting for the other person to say it first? So then I kind of have to say it to put it out there. But what's interesting is another shot in the dark was played by Swathi. And by the nature of the shot in the dark being a 1 in 7, 1 in 6 chance, whatever, it's going to rarely actually have an effect. And again, when it does, it'll be a disaster and horrific to watch. But it's interesting because every tribal council, except for the last one, which was hectic in its own right, and had its own crazy stuff going on, but every other tribal council has had a shot in the dark being played. So it shows a couple things. First of all, it's very interesting that this is so different from Survivor 41, where the shot in the dark was played once, if I remember correctly, once, and that was Sydney. I could be forgetting someone else, but now it's just commonplace. That's why it also seems to show that maybe these players aren't the best, because they're making it very obvious who's the one to be voted out on these tribal councils. So, the one who's on the bottom is always sure enough that they're on the bottom, they're willing to sacrifice their vote. They're also in the position where it's I guess it's going to be almost unanimous one way or the other who's going to be voted out. So, there's less harm if you know it's between you and one other person. There's less harm in you sacrificing your vote because it's not going to make the difference. That's why, obviously, you didn't see someone play the shot in the dark last time, because every vote did matter and there were missing votes. So, anyway, it's interesting. It was a decent episode of Survivor. Obviously, the whole thing was dampened by the fact that I knew with 100% certainty that Tori was not going to be voted out from the jump. Through no fault of my own or any fans' own by Survivor itself. So please find it next episode. Please. Thanks for watching. Click all the links in the description for our social media, and if you want to leave any feedback for us, for sure. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for more. We are going to be starting up Survivor Guatemala very soon with my friend Alec, who I host this channel with also. He's a newer... I've introduced him to Survivor. I'm a big fan, but I've been taking him through every season chronologically from the beginning. So from season 1 up until Palau, we've gone through. Guatemala will be starting up soon. We have a couple of those episodes recorded already, but it will be coming out very soon. And to look forward to that. If you're interested in some old school Survivor, you can definitely check that out. But until then, please feel free to check out our review of Churning Red, which we just posted very recently. We do movie reviews, video game reviews, discussions. We do a lot of stuff on this channel. It's a lot of fun. But Survivor is a staple of the channel, and we love Survivor here. Okay, thanks for watching. All right, take care.